The last McDonald's in Oakland has closed. This is the one that was kind of famous for having rats running around in the kitchen. And now the employees are protesting after the store said it would close to keep it open. McDonald's isn't the only store to have left Oakland, as you know. Let's get into it. Here we go. Geez, I love this title. Daily Mail. Oakland McDonald's workers moan about closure of their restaurant after rats were filmed leaping around inside its kitchens. Let's scroll down. I think we've got a good video here. Oh yeah, here we go. There's there's one of the trays in McDonald's. An employee was taking pictures. And then the owner is like, no more pictures, no more videos inside the restaurant because, we got rats. Now, almost all of the stories have focused on the employees being upset that their jobs were lost right before Thanksgiving. I get that. But when you've got every other major fast food restaurant, In-N-Out Burger, Shake Shack, we're going to get to them. Those were major stories that we have covered here, has left because of safety issues. And then, unfortunately, the McDonald's gets closed because it's got a further layer of adversity to overcome, which is internal, meaning they got rats. Check that out. There is a dead rat. That is just gross. Here's our McDonald's in question. Let's here we go. Let's watch this video.
McDonald's workers here in downtown Oakland say last week the restaurant said they were closing completely and they weren't allowed to transfer to another store. Many saying now they're left without a job right before the holidays.
Can we run? We!
The strike drew more than 24 workers and supporters rallying outside a location that had already made headlines last year after a video of rats in the kitchen went viral. The owner says those health issues were addressed at the time, but today's strike was about something else, the sudden loss of jobs just days before Thanksgiving, as the Jackson Street McDonald's is set to close this Sunday. One worker telling us through a translator she felt betrayed.
For 8 years. So they got a 10-day notice and we weren't given any other options.
The owner of this McDonald's told Crown Foreign Estate.
The reason I'm playing this is because I feel like folks that are working in a lot of these positions think that they should get way more than they are deserved. You work at McDonald's, you've worked there for a long time. Hey, great, understand that, but you got a paycheck. You got what you earned. You got what you said you would agree to working for. And then you protested against the store when you had rats in it instead of kind of keeping it quiet. Instead, you blew up that story. You leaked video to the point where your owner had to say no more video, no more cameras inside the restaurant because you guys are just destroying business. You guys cut your own throat. You could have done it quietly, but you didn't. All right, maybe there was an issue where the owner just wasn't doing anything. In that case, then you go work for a different McDonald's, something along those lines. But, I'm not trying to be hardcore about labor relations here, but when you are striking after you've effectively been fired, that makes absolutely zero sense, especially given that this is not the first fast food store in downtown Oakland with known major issues and then closed. We'll get into that in a second. Let's finish this.
I've made the difficult decision to close my Jackson Street restaurant on November 30th. My organization is thankful to the local community for their years of support and to our hardworking crew members who showed up every day to serve our customers. End quote. McDonald's corporate says workers are welcome to apply at other locations, and customers there tell me the timing adds to the frustration.
That's horrible timing, like right before Thanksgiving.
Another employee, also speaking through a translator, said being told they'd lose their job in just 10 days was life-changing.
We would have liked to be able to look for other options beforehand, and now we don't have options.
The California Fast Food Workers Union also joined the strike, saying some employees had worked at the location almost 2 decades and should have been offered a transfer.
It shows the way that McDonald's is treating his workers. Some of them are working here more than 17 years.
With only 5 days until the restaurant officially closes.
Ungrateful rats. Oh, that's a good sign though. That is a good. I mean, yeah. That's funny. McDonald's, you are ungrateful rats. Oh, the store closed because we exposed the fact that there were rats. So this whole, yeah. Mm-hmm.
His workers say they're hoping to find another job and to make it through the holidays. That's the very latest here in Oakland. I'm Michael Thomas. I'll send it back to you live in the studio.
Thanks, Big Mike. Let's move on. Company told 𝗪𝗏 that the laid-off workers were welcome to apply to other McDonald's locations. At the rally, talking about the protest. They're protesting being fired instead of out looking for new jobs. If a store is shut down, it's not just because of the rats, right? I mean, it's not just because of the rats. We're aware of that problem. Owner can fix that. But you've got so many other layers of adversity for this store to stay open. And the PR, especially having your own employees protest against store conditions. Okay. All right. Yeah. You know, there's a double-edged sword there. And you just figured out what that was, which was, it's kind of like I always talk about Starbucks stores that want to unionize and call it $26 an hour. And then corporate looks at all the stores and says, well, we got to cut a handful of these because this isn't working. And the ones with the highest price per employee per hour closed. And then your $26 hour wage goes to zero. That's what happened with this store. On top of the fact, you've got all kinds of safety conditions that nobody in the media is talking about. You know why? Because socialism, workers of the world unite, is what it's all about right now. In Seattle, we just hired a socialist mayor. We've got a state representative that is a whack nut job, Sean Scott, who is proposing a $2 billion tax on big companies like Microsoft and Amazon who have made our region. He's pushing them out. So you've got these issues where people think that just because you can protest, you're going to be able to demand and get your way. Business leaves when you do that. Closed. And that's what happened to this McDonald's. At the rally, cooks and cashiers gathered to protest company's failure to value its longtime workers. Now, some of these employees have been there 17 years. Long time. They put in their work. There are other McDonald's out there, right? That all operate about the same. Maybe those other McDonald's restaurants don't have rats in the kitchen. Maybe they're not nibbling on burgers. I don't know. Do you have to stay at the one McDonald's? So many questions, so few answers, and nobody even said a word. Major mainstream media didn't say a damn word about safety conditions in Oakland. Not one. I couldn't find one. Other stories with other restaurants that have gone under? Absolutely. In-N-Out Burger, where the CEO said, hey, we're closing down a business that is making money because there's bullet holes in the structure of the building. You're like, that's not good. This is just another example of how McDonald's and other fast food companies care more about profits than their workers. Well, this was a franchise and this was a business owner, and clearly he had some issues. He had some rodent infestation. I don't know if you've ever had a rodent die in your house. I had one that died in drywall up above a ceiling, and like, where is that smell coming from? It was in one of my rentals, and it was just terrible. Eventually, I was able to figure out where it was, and I cut a hole in the drywall, and ploop, down comes the decaying rat. Just disgusting. So no qualms about, it's terrible. And in a restaurant, absolutely horrific. But then when you go and strike, that's not going to end up well. I mean, it's just not. Closure of Oakland McDonald's that went viral leaves dozens without jobs. And all these stories go on to talk about, all these workers got laid off right before Thanksgiving. That's not ideal. It's not ideal, but life sometimes doesn't work that way. Was the guy supposed to wait until after Christmas? I'm not really sure. The owner of this McDonald's franchise location, says those health issues were addressed and resolved at the time. But the strike was about something else, the sudden loss of jobs just days before Thanksgiving. You know what's interesting is the owner, he didn't say anything about, hey, had all this crazy stuff go on. Fights broke out. There's homeless people running around. There was store break-ins. There was all kinds of shenanigans going on because that's what's happening in Oakland. But all of the stories, it shows the way McDonald's is treating its workers. I mean, you got to make a decision at some point in time. Would you rather have it done before Easter? I don't know. Before the holidays? Agreed. That's a terrible timing. My wife served me divorce papers on November 17th, about a week before Thanksgiving. And I didn't have a great holiday season. It was the 20th anniversary of that, November 17th, 2005. I don't remember that at all that well, right? Yeah, that's one of the few dates. I don't remember what day we got married on, but I remember the day I got served at the office with an 1.5-inch stack of paperwork. Yeah. Okay, but moving on. We see rats every day. Bay Area McDonald's closes due to infestation. That's not good. That's not a good thing. How about Shake Shack closes an underperforming Oakland location in city's beleaguered downtown area. Now, that makes more sense, right? Well, we got rats on top of beleaguered, and we've got underperforming. And underperforming is what everybody indicates when you've got a store that has a whole bunch of issues, but you don't really want to come right out and say it because you've got maybe some other stores in the community, just not in the super high crime ones that we're talking about. Maybe you've got a couple in San Francisco. So you don't want to absolutely crap on leadership. Something like that, right? Oh, it's underperforming. Or corporate just says, oh, it was underperforming. We just weren't making money. Where in the case of In-N-Out Burger, that Oakland store was making money. It was not underperforming. It was just too scary from a safety standpoint. And I believe that's a lot of what this store was closed about too. It's just that the rats in the store and then the employees sending out video on said rats kind of put the icing on the cake. Probably had a massive decline in business. And then on top of, you got a bunch of lunatics running around Oakland doing Oakland things, right? I mean, everybody just knows that's a given. Burger chain Shake Shack has closed its Oakland restaurant along with several other locations in Southern California, latest business in the city to shut down. Identified locations that are underperforming at the Shake Shack level, in part due to changes in the trade area, and in some cases are negatively impacting other Shacks within their proximity by cannibalizing sales. Okay, that's a bunch of corporate nonsense. In-N-Out Era says she closed Oakland location because it was absolutely dangerous. Now, here's the only one that's willing to come out and say what she said, right? McDonald's guy, maybe he owns other McDonald's. I don't know. There was very little information on him. And he didn't say anything specifically. He just basically, the statement that we saw, we're really happy to serve the community and you can follow us online. Just a bunch of nonsense. He's got to say something. He's got to put something out there. And then the workers just go ballistic. But they've already been fired. So it's like, why would you spend your time protesting a job you don't have to get a job back that you probably shouldn't want back because conditions are horrific and your boss, clearly, if he's serving food that's been nibbled on by a rat, maybe that's not where you want to be. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, right? Hey, maybe I can do better. McDonald's are kind of McDonald's, aren't they? Yeah, I mean, to me, and that's where the whole thing with Starbucks employees wanting, $35 an hour because Seattle is super expensive to work in, to live in. Just because it's expensive for you to pay your bills doesn't mean that job necessarily is going to pay more. Man, I was reading a story about how retail workers in most big North American cities basically can't afford rent because retail just doesn't pay that much. But that is what retail pays, right? It caps out at a certain level. And, in the big West Coast, Best Coast cities like Seattle, it's super expensive to try and make a living at the retail level. I mean, even if you're working at Nordstrom, and I know we've got listeners that of this podcast that send in stories and they work at Nordstrom and, they're able to make a go of it. But, the numbers don't make sense. The numbers don't make sense in a lot of these Best Coast, West Coast cities and East Coast because costs have risen so much because of inherent built-in policy. And that sucks. But these folks here kind of went above and beyond and did the workers of the world unite thing, and then kind of found out through a reality check that, that's this, you can protest all you want, but if the underlying fundamental conditions of either the city or the business or the economic model don't work, you're going to get closed down. Now, this gal here, the owner, the heiress to the In-N-Out Burger, she's a billionaire, and she moved her headquarters out of California to Tennessee so that her employees could maybe buy a house. I mean, that's just one of those stories. In-N-Out heiress, whose grandparents founded the popular burger chain, said the company's decision to close its sole Oakland location was due to the site being absolutely dangerous. I mean, there was a lot. Lindsay Snyder told Marissa Straight of the right-leaning video network PragerU. There was actually gunshots went through the store. There was a stabbing. There was a lot. Now, why wouldn't you have that in McDonald's? Well, you would. So, fact that we're blaming this on rats? I call nonsense. I call BS. Snyder42 said that the company shuttered the profitable outpost. Notice it's profitable. The other one, probably the McDonald's, probably not profitable because the employees already did kind of that expose. Nobody wants to go. Don't go to that McDonald's. They had rats. You see that video? I did. It was horrific. Let's not eat there. Okay. And then, what do you think? Business tanks. For the safety of our associates, because we felt just like this is not okay, having gunshots go into the store. Her comments were first reported by whatever. In-N-Out made the decision to pull out of Oakland after an 18-year presence in the city this past January. It served its final customers in March. It was the first time in its 75-year history that the company permanently shuttered one of its restaurants. Despite taking repeated steps to create safer conditions, our customers and associates are regularly victimized by car break-ins, property damage, theft, armed robberies, said the company's chief operating officer in January. Bad stuff sometimes happens. Sometimes a business has got to close its doors. It's just, we're done. Decisions get made, and they get made before Thanksgiving, and that absolutely is terrible. It happens. We move on to violent crime is considerably higher in Oakland than the national average, according to FBI statistics. I mean, just absolutely horrible, right? Just not great. Not a shocker that this McDonald's got closed down. Not a shocker at all. The way that the employees handle it, I mean, it's Oakland. So, it's one of those things where, this store had some additional issues going on, but the underlying problems are you've got all kinds of stuff going on in Oakland that shouldn't be going on, and businesses cannot survive. So it wasn't just the rats. If this was a profitable store, you bring in an exterminator, you get it cleaned up, you do a new PR campaign, but that was just icing on the cake. The rats. And then you've got somebody who's obviously following all the socialism going on, doing a bunch of, it's like the Four Kings or the No Kings protesters. No Kings. It doesn't do any good. McDonald's, follows suit when, like Starbucks, and when people protest, they get shut down. Maybe because business isn't making money. Who knows, right? This guy made a decision. Maybe it was time for him to retire. I don't know. You don't know. But the underlying conditions in Oakland are such that businesses can't make a go of it with or without rats. And then when you bring attention to that and you're an employee, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, do all that stuff. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.